Thank you. Roll call?
Mayor DuBois,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Capides,
Here.
Committeeman Huber,
Here.
Committeeman Kaiser,
Here, present.
Committeeman Weber.
Here.
Okay, should I do this first before the tax amount? Okay, I just had one proclamation. It is the 50th anniversary of Municipal Clerks Week, and we have some of the best in the business, and we thank them. And I'm not going to read the whole proclamation because I don't want to shine a spotlight on anybody. The office of the municipal clerk is the oldest among public servants. Municipal clerk serves as the information center and functions of local government and committee. Whereas it is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishments of the office of municipal clerk. Now, therefore, I, Erica DuBois, Mayor of the Township of Springfield, on behalf of the Township Committee, do recognize the week of May 5th through May 11th, 2019, as Municipal Clerks Week, and further extend appreciation to our municipal clerk, Linda Donnelly, Deputy Clerk Mary Ellen Brennan, and Assistant Kristen Ragland, and to all municipal clerks for the vital services they perform and their exemplary dedication to the communities they represent. So I would like to thank all three of the women we just mentioned. They are fantastic. They are amazing people to work with, and they put in so much work behind the scenes that people don't even realize, and we couldn't do what we do without them. So to all of them, thank you very much. We appreciate them. I apologize, my allergies and my teaching job are taking my voice from me. So, I'm sorry I sound horrible tonight. Now to announcements. Tax reevaluation information. I know that many of you might be here tonight in regards to this topic. We just wanted to give you a little overview of what's going to happen in the near and extended future. The state of New Jersey in 2016 ordered Union County to have all the towns conduct a reeval. Since that time, Roselle Park completed in 2016, Winfield Park in 2018, Westfield is in the process in 2019. Garwood, Fanwood, and Mountainside are scheduled for 2020, and Clark, Springfield, and Elizabeth for 2021. Here is a little bit of background on the process. First, tax maps, it's a tongue twister, tax maps must be updated. We are waiting on cost proposals to do this. Updated tax maps need to be sent to the state to be certified. That takes approximately 6 months. While the above is taking place, the RFP and an RFP for a qualified company to do the reeval will be drafted, advertised, and awarded. That takes 2 to 3 months. Once the reeval company is on board, they will hold 2 to 3 public meetings to explain the process and answer any questions. December is the intended reeval start date. The reeval company will inspect all properties, create a neighborhood map, and assign a value to each property. Should a resident disagree with the reeval, they will have an opportunity to discuss the reeval with the reeval company at an informal hearing their concerns. If they still are unsatisfied, they can file an appeal with the Union Board of Taxation in Elizabeth. If they disagree, they have the option of filing with the Tax Court of New Jersey within 45 days. Our statutory filing deadline with the county is January 10th of 2021. We will have our tax assessor at the May 28th meeting to answer any questions that residents have. We will also provide updates along as we proceed with this mandated process. So we just wanted to provide you with a little bit of background. Like we said, if you do have questions, please come to our May 28th meeting where our professionals will be here and they will be able to answer your questions in more depth. Tonight is not a question and answer session on this. We just wanted to provide you with what we know so far and how the process works. And come back on May 28th with any questions that you would have.
Eric will also leave these, if anybody wants a copy, a little handout along with too.
Thank you very much, John. Yes, thank you. Next, another announcement. On a sad note, Auxiliary Police Chief Harry Vargas passed away May 4th, 2019 in Florida. He was a member of the Auxiliary PD from 1967 to 1998, as well as a Class II Special Police Officer in Springfield for many years. We want to send our condolences to Harry's family and obviously thank him for his service to our community for over 30 years. Now, we will take public comments. Do we have any? Okay. Seeing as there's none. New business, ordinances. We have a second reading.
Okay, ordinance 2019-06, this ordinance of the Township of Springfield, County of Union, New Jersey, is adopting a redevelopment plan for Block 101, Lots 1, 34, 45, and 46.
I would like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 2019-06 as read by Madam Clerk and publicized in the Star Ledger on May 10th, 2019.
I second.
Okay. We would like to take public comment on this ordinance, on this second reading. Yep. This is in regard to the Saks project, just so you know.
Eric, Matt's available to field.
Thank you.
Name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Jen Petito, and I live at 9 Treetop Drive.
I just, speak into the mic, Jen? I know. It's not fun.
Okay, I'm here tonight to talk to you about the Saks Fifth Avenue project. While I think this is a great thing in motion, we've looked at that empty lot for far too long. I think there's many things, as you know, that you need to pay attention to. As you all know, the 277 units that are planned, of those, approximately 50 are set aside for low-income families. It's my contention that we should address and include upfront units for citizens with developmental disabilities.
Yes.
As you probably know, due to recent changes in the law, individuals with developmental disabilities are to be included as part of the everyday fabric of every town. And this development presents a perfect opportunity to do just that. It would be a tremendous addition to the diversity of the community to have a significant set aside for people with developmental disabilities in the low-income section. As a matter of law, housing for the developmentally disabled does qualify for low-income treatment, thus satisfying the requirement set aside for the developer. In situations such as this, setting aside housing for the developmentally disabled does not place the same burden on our school system that bringing in families with children attending our schools will do. As such, it is a mechanism by which to satisfy both the housing needs, which are tremendous for individuals with developmental disabilities, and the low-income set-asides as required by state law. Essentially, you can kill two birds with one stone for every low-income unit that is set aside for people with developmental disabilities. So I would ask that while you're considering density or low-income units or the layout of the development, and you're weighing on the impact on our school system, I would hope and trust that you would do consideration to requiring the maximum allowable units for low-income housing that could be set aside for those individuals. The Arc of Union County, who I know you work with already on some housing in town, has made it clear that they're more than willing to come in and be the direct tenant with the developer. This means that rent would be paid directly by the Arc of Union County, and this has to be appealing to the developer. Those units will never be an economic loss to this developer. Probably even better to have the ARC as a financial guarantor for those units instead of an individual family. It creates a tremendous opportunity for these people who are our friends, our brothers, our sisters, and everybody knows somebody that has a developmental disability. So I look forward to watching Springfield incorporate this segment of society into the community.
I wanted to let you give your presentation, and I wanted to let you know that a few months back, sometime within the last year, it may have, did you email us in regards?
did.
Okay, so you
Didn't
did.
reply, so
You
I-
did, okay.
let me
No,
tell
no, so we did, I'm sorry that I didn't reply because we had a meeting months ago in regards to affordable housing, and I brought up your points.
Great.
And that was a while ago, just in regards to, this was before the Saks project even was like on our radar, just in general with the redevelopment.
Great.
And it came up again, obviously brought it up again when this project was kicking off, and I read what you wrote actually recently. And, yeah, so, and, we have suggested that, and it sounds like that is something that will really be considered. There will be a number of units, we're pushing to have a number of units in regards to what you're asking for. So that is something that's definitely being spoken about, and I appreciate your efforts in that. I want to let you know your efforts are not in vain, and that is something that's definitely on our radar and that's being spoken about. So I just wanted to let you know, and I appreciate your efforts in all this. You're welcome. Anyone else? Any questions or anything? Yep, just come up to the mic. If you have a question, just please speak into the microphone. That's the only way that people watching on TV can hear you. Just state your name and address.
Peter Quinn, 231 Baltusrol Avenue. When considering the development plan, how much consideration was given to contacting luxury home developers such as Toll Brothers, citing or showing them what happened at the Chanticleer property and asking for a feasibility or an interest in doing the same thing on the Saks property? I think it would certainly have created a much higher tax base, much lower density than 255 apartment units, and it probably would have met with little or no opposition.
For Matt, do you have anything to add to that?
The redevelopment plan that's being considered tonight is, permitted zoning. This was, the development plan was prepared by Keenan Hughes, and if you have anything else, feel free to chime in. We also are in discussions with the current property owner. We can't necessarily force something there that obviously a property owner is interested in building as well. So we have a plan that we think, has sound planning principles, makes sense for the area, and although we're not at the point, obviously, of designating a developer, whether we're Toll Brothers or somebody else, that's something for a future step down the road. We think this is something that is, developable and marketable and supportable for the area.
Would now be the time to call Toll Brothers instead of when it's too late?
Again, this is only setting the zoning. The developer of the property is a step that comes later on in the process. So who ultimately builds this is a step that comes after this. We have zoning for the property first, then we designate a developer.
And how much difference would there be for luxury homes versus this in zoning?
What do you mean difference? Difference in what?
Well, why not zone it for its best use?
I think, Keenan, you want to speak to that? I mean, we're suggesting this is a best use.
Yeah, so if you're suggesting single-family housing, from a planning standpoint, I would say this concept plan is actually a long-standing vision for the township. It's been in the master plan since the 1990s. To do something mixed use, you have the frontage along Milburn Avenue, so it really lends itself well to a mixed-use, multifamily building that then transitions down to a lower density townhouse type of use. So from a planning standpoint, it makes sense in terms of the residential types. I would just further add to that from a tax-based perspective. Single-family homes do tend to generate more school children than apartments do or townhomes do. So that does have an impact in terms of evaluating, what the potential fiscal benefit is to the township. So it certainly isn't a slam dunk that single-family homes would be a major boost to the tax base. So for those reasons, we felt that this proposed land use mix was most appropriate for the site.
So the last part of my question, how much consideration was given to the idea of luxury homes? It sounds like it's not considered.
Well, I mean, to be clear, they're going to be building very high-end townhomes here that will be for sale single family. So if that's what you have in mind, I mean, that's certainly something that will likely be developed on the site.
Thank you.
Hi, Ken Rishardi, 91 Saverna Avenue. I apologize as I missed the 6 o'clock session, I have two questions, one of which may be getting ahead of myself here, but I'm assuming that the town at this point has not said anything about tax abatement for a developer or anything like that. Is that correct? Will Matt speak to that?
That is correct, yes. At the stage we're at now, we have previously, the township has previously designated the property as an area in need of redevelopment. That's step one. Step two is creating a redevelopment plan, zoning for the property. And then steps after that include things like negotiating and designating a developer, entering into a redevelopment agreement, and negotiating the terms of a financial agreement and any other economic incentives that may or may not come into play with any particular project.
Thank you. Last question, the renderings look phenomenal, but how well baked are these renderings? Or is the town, do we still have an ability to maybe change frontage, or if we don't like the facade, we can decide to? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question. The redevelopment plan is basically tailored to the concept plan that you've seen, to these renderings. And in fact, the plan itself contains a number of these renderings, which are conceptual in nature. So yes, the planning board has the ability to tweak the design as part of site plan review. But at sort of a conceptual level, this is what we anticipate being developed on the property, and the plan is drafted that way.
Thank you.
Good evening, Gail Donner, 18 Richland Drive, Springfield. As an educator, I'm concerned about the education of the children moving into this development. How are they going to get to school, and isn't this going to impair our taxes more? Because there'll be many more children from this development, and they are not in walking distance to the schools. Also, our schools are very old and very small, as you all are aware. So I would like to know if you planned ahead on the children boost that this will give to the city.
I'm not sure if you were here for the whole presentation, but we have,
No.
they have run numbers on the impact on the schools, and it's not projected to be a gigantic, because that I myself is an educator, parents, the schools is a huge concern with anything that we do. The numbers, I don't want to see overcrowding, obviously. That is not a concern right now, based on the numbers being looked at. We will look at the transportation issues. Again, this will be years down the line. It's not going to happen overnight with the transportation. But as numbers-wise, it's not going to be a detriment to the schools. And there will be ratables coming in from this because it is a Springfield property, so there will be more tax revenue coming in regards to
Will
that.
it
as well.
generate as much money as the single-family houses that the gentleman before me discussed? Did you weigh the pros and cons? Because an apartment's taxes isn't quite as heavy when you divide it up as a single-family unit. I was wondering if you took that into consideration.
Matt, would you like to address that?
So, a couple of things. Following up on what the mayor said, the township has been working with the Board of Education's demographer, not our consultant, but the Board of Ed's consultant. And their consultant has been looking at their prediction of the increase in school children resulting from this project. They have been incorporating that number into the overall demographic school population, and they are noting to the township that is not an area of concern. With respect to tax revenues, this is sort of advancing a little ahead of where we are tonight. We're here to talk tonight about the redevelopment plan itself, about the zoning for the area. But with all of the redevelopment projects, Each project at the appropriate stage will go through a tax analysis. We will look at projected revenue from the project. We will look at the highest and best tax revenue that we can generate for the municipality, and we will weigh that against the cost of constituent services, municipal services, as a result of the increased population, the increased project, and we will look to make sure that it is a net neutral or net positive economic impact on the municipality after taking into account all of those concerns.
One more question before you leave. Did you take into consideration the cost of busing the children from the development to the schools?
I can't speak to what the Board of Education's plan is to get the students there, whether it's up to the parents to get the kids there, or whether that would be covered by busing.
I just wanted to make a point. There's all things to look at. I'm not for or against it at this point, but I would like you as the leaders of this community to take all the facts into consideration.
No, we appreciate your input. Thank you.
Thank you.
Evelyn Chait, 47 Shelley
Hi,
Road.
how are you?
I wasn't here for the prior part of
Okay.
this meeting. However, my husband and I built affordable housing for many, many years. I'm very familiar with set-aside. You tell me you've done your homework that these set-asides will house minimal amount of children. I'm telling you from personal experience that every set-aside, years ago, the Department of Community Affairs would only allow us to have 2 children to a bedroom. That stopped. And from my experience, we saw 3 and 4 children in a set-aside bedroom, 2 on a couch. You are not looking at this realistically. So I suggest you do a little more homework, because this could really impact our schools. And when it impacts our schools, I came here 40 years ago from Hillside. We got nothing for our house. You know why? We didn't have a school system to sell. When you don't have a school system to sell, you don't have a house to sell. So do your homework, people. Do your homework.
Thank you.
I can just briefly address that by saying that both our independent analysis as well as the school demographer's analysis has taken into consideration the fact that there's a differentiation between market rate units and affordable units in terms of the number of students that are generated. So that is something that's been considered.
And also the point made by the resident earlier, who's no longer here, in regards to special needs housing, and that there will be a portion of that there. That does eliminate, for the most part, students in those units. So that's also something to consider.
Good evening, Scott Wishna, 10 Cayuga Court. I think that many of you are aware I am a member of the Township Planning Board. I have studied this plan in depth for many months. Unfortunately, I had to recuse myself from hearing the application due to the fact that I am employed by a company who has a property that borders this property. And that's ironic, because what I do for that company, TD Bank, is work on development applications throughout New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. I've seen many of these mixed-use projects been applied for. I am pro-development, and let me make that very clear. I think that this is an opportunity to do a lot, okay? What I am concerned about is the time and whether or not any study has been done to determine if there's a demand for the type of townhouse units that are being proposed. I'm not sure that Springfield has that demand right now. I look at the property that was developed further along Milburn Avenue at the former Chanticleer. That was a major residential developer that developed that property. It was in the township of Milburn, and it probably took 10 years from beginning to end by the time they broke ground until they sold the last unit.
It's been closed that long?
No, that's how long it took to build.
No, I know. I'm saying, so Chanticleer's been closed that long?
Right. Another thing, I should have started with this. We keep calling this the Saks property. Saks hasn't operated there in like 28 years. Can we call this the Milburn Avenue redevelopment or something? Let's give it a new name. Saks has been gone. But my concern is not over the use. I understand everything that goes into the application process, everything that goes into determining the zoning. My concern is that we're going to be looking at a very big construction project for a very long time. I think the assessment that it's an 18 to 24-month project is off. And I think that we need to understand whether or not there's a demand for this type of housing in Springfield. At the price point we're talking about for the townhome units, that same money can buy a quite impressive single-family home in Springfield. And somebody that wants to spend that much money on a townhome, I think there's product out there in other towns that may be more attractive. So I'm concerned about the second piece of it, not so much the apartment piece of it, but as we look at a mixed-use development, I want to make sure that we're fully evaluating whether or not this demand exists. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
Fred Renick, 76 Severna Avenue. I heard earlier in a follow-up to this, to the woman who's a school teacher, about the schools, and I'm wondering, what's the route for these buses to go to the schools in Springfield? Because there's no left turns. I heard no left turn onto Morris, no left turn off of Milburn. So that means going down Milburn Avenue, down past the Sunoco station and down Short Hills Avenue is really the only road that all the school buses can take. There's only one road. That's a very tight turn around the turn at the gas station, if you ever do it. I don't know if anybody goes to work either way on Short Hills Avenue in the morning. It's a 91-second light. Okay, that came up when the Saks property was up for, when they were talking about putting groceries and all that. It's a really long light there. And it's traffic, you can't get into Milburn because Milburn High is right there. So it's all backs up, and then those new apartments that we were just talking about on the Chanticleer pull out there, and the kids all park in the parking lot behind Enzo's and all that back there. So the only way to come down, the Township Committee bus now, I live on Severna, now comes down our street. That's how they go to the pool. They come down a residential neighborhood. Are all the school buses gonna come through? There's only one exit. There's only one road. So you have to think about how those kids are all gonna get to school.
Thank
There's no other way.
David Barnett, 136 Treetop Drive. You may remember me as the former mayor of Springfield, New Jersey, as well as current planning board member and representative from the BID. I want to make sure that you all, and I know you do, but just want to reiterate, everyone out here in the audience as well, on what we're actually doing this evening. We're not talking about final site plan. We're not talking about preliminary site plan. We're talking about this particular property being designated. And we have a particular plan that we have worked on, but that is not necessarily the end game here. Your job this evening is not specifically to figure out where the school buses are going to go, or if there's economic value of the apartments or the townhouses or anything like that. Just want to make sure that actually you're clear, and the rest of the group here is sort of clear, the rest of the audience is clear. My history with this property dates back 15 some odd years from when I was on the zoning board. This property was going to be a stop and shop. The neighbors at the time came out vehemently against that plan, and in fact, they won. It's not going to be a stop and shop. The new owners certainly have a right to decide what will be on that lot within the reason that you decide, and that the planning board decides, and our engineers and our professionals. But I believe that this use is an enormous win for our town. It's a win for the neighbors to have what will be a luxury, really beautiful neighborhood adjacent to the neighborhood that already exists, within walking distance of the train station, within walking distance of our downtown, and really take a property that right now is a blight on our town, a building that is so dilapidated that it's dangerous and it has to be condemned and torn down, and take a lot, which we've seen now for way over 20 years has been vacant, and really put a wonderful use that will be an asset to this town. So I am 100% behind this. A lot of work has gone into this on behalf of the planning board, on behalf of our professionals, and there is an enormous amount of work to be done as well. All the details which people have expressed this evening will be worked out to the best of our ability, best of the developer's ability, within the guidelines, within the laws of our town and of our county and of our state. I don't have a question, but I'm 100% behind the proposal. Certainly will work out some of the details, and I would encourage everyone to vote affirmatively for this resolution. Thank you. Or this
Thank you.
ordinance.
You may.
Andrew Schwartz, 164 Wentz Avenue. Like Mr. Barnett, I also am a member of the planning board. I also sat on the subcommittee that considered this zoning plan. I'd like to reiterate what Mr. Barnett just said. I 100% support this plan, and a couple things that haven't been mentioned but should really be considered. What is there now in this empty old Saks building is a hazard. Mr. Hughes braved the inside of it and came to the planning board with pictures earlier this year.
I think they're on one of those boards, actually.
Which, I mean, it's in danger of collapse, and it will at some point collapse. I mean, we're lucky we don't have a rodent infestation from this property, so to leave it in its present form is not healthy for this town. Second, as we all know, when Stop and Shop was proposed, we faced years and years of litigation. This will likely be avoided this time because I understand there's been communication frequently with Milburn, and Milburn is on board with this development. There's that small strip along Milburn Avenue, which Springfield does not own, but is part of the property, which gives Milburn excessive rights beyond what it really should have, considering. But because Milburn's on board with this, as proposed for the zoning, we get the ability to move forward without that litigation. And I think that's an important consideration. And finally, we have an owner who is willing to develop it in a way that is, again, helpful and healthy for this town and will bring development into this town, which we've all been looking for. So I too 100% support this and hope that you all vote for it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
It looks better with him being blocked.
Good evening, Barbara Rappaport, 50 Country Club Lane, Madam Mayor. My question is, I was wondering, anything discussed in the informal presentation, is that going to be on the record, or do people who have concerns, do they have to now bring them up formally? I just wanted to know, because I know there was a lot of discussion.
No, I've been taking notes in regards to any points brought up tonight that we haven't addressed, so I can bring them back in for later meetings. So,
Because, again, I would just like to emphasize the need for public transportation. And I know it is in walking distance to the train station. Sure, and I don't know what the bus routes are like up there. I just know the bus I take into New York. And the thing is, it may only be 10 minutes, but tell me that we're going to have the perfect weather all the time, Monday to Friday, when people are commuting, because
we've talked about in our meetings, the jitney from Springfield, possibly making a stop there as well. We talked about the cut-through that may not exist, and I thought of maybe bringing that up as well as a jitney stop there as well. So we are considering all of those factors. I appreciate you bringing them up. And again, this is a very early part of the phase. This isn't a done deal yet in regards to the plan, and we will consider all of these things.
And just one other comment I'd like to make. We're talking about all generations or populations that are going to be served by these properties. And I would just like to say, on behalf of the senior citizens, I would hope that there'd be some consideration, because it's not only a tax issue
for many seniors here, but it's also an issue of the type of homes they now are living in, because obviously, a home that, you know, someone's been occupying for 40 or 50 years, those steps may be getting to be a little bit unwieldy. And I would just like to see, you know, some affordable housing for seniors, you know, downsized.
Thank you. I appreciate your ideas.
Wendy Jones, 158 Milltown Road. Well, just two things. I lived for 10 years. I came here actually in 1988 at 34B Forest Drive, and it's just 10 minutes up to the train station, and the bus is right there at Sunoco. So yeah, to get into New York, I mean, and it didn't matter about the weather. You can do it. I mean, unless you have mobility issues, you can do it. I promise you. Did it for 10 years. Working in New York. Now, the other question is, I'm just curious, is there anywhere I can find out what the units are going for? Because I'm just feeling a whole lot of people haven't recovered from 2008. And I looked at that that development where across from what used to be the railroad station. It took I mean, I think they're still trying to get people in there. I mean, it did take a while.
We might be too early.
It's too early?
Yeah, it's a little too early to have that type of information.
Okay, all right. I thought maybe it was out and I hadn't seen it.
No, it's a little too early.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, thank you. Would anyone else like to share any ideas? Going once, going twice. Okay, I guess we can take a roll
Do a
call.
roll call?
Yeah.
Committeeman Kaiser.
Just question.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Do we get to make
discussion.
a
I
public
apologize.
comment?
Discussion.
I don't want to hear from you guys, I only want to hear from you. No, I'm just kidding.
No. I just want to make a comment. You know, we're talking about Saks, but there's a member of this township committee that's never known it to be Saks, and that's myself. So when we're talking about a vacant building that's been there 30-plus years, vacant, this is a win tonight. This is a huge win for our town. We're bringing in new people to our community, one that people are going to want to go to, primarily because of transportation. And yes, our state needs to get that right. I've been working with Craig Dowd on a resolution to make sure that our committee voices our concern to our governor, to our federal officials, to our state officials, on the importance of that train station. Being near that train station is what's going to drive and make this project economically viable and make our town a better place to live. Bring us in new tax revenue. Give us a new pride of our community and bring in new neighbors to our community. Tonight is just the first stage of this. We still have many years to go. But I'm proud, and in a few moments I'm proud to vote in favor of this, this project. I think it's going to be an exciting few years ahead for our community. But I also want to convey that the Township Committee and all the professionals who have worked on this, thank goodness, you guys are tremendous. But from the Township Committee, that we're going to be here and we're going to be open. And that's why we held that public information in the beginning, so that we can hear your thoughts and your opinions. This is ongoing, but it needs to be a community effort. So know that we're here to hear you, that we'll bring your ideas along, and that this isn't a closed deal today. But I'm excited for this going forward.
Thank you, Committeeman. Anyone else?
Yeah.
All right.
Age before beauty.
I'm the opposite of Alex. I went there as a kid. So
Oh,
I'm the old
now.
man up here. I used to go here with my mother when I was a kid. It was a great store.
Horse and buggy?
Yeah, probably. But it was a good store. I worked at King's next door. I don't know how many of you remember King's up there. I mean, I worked at King's Supermarket next door. When the supermarket was proposed up there, I wasn't on the planning board or anything at that time. But I didn't think it would be good for that spot right there. I mean, this spot right here, people have to understand, right now it's 100% paved. They're going into 75%, the most. It could be less. I mean, we thought about the neighbors up there, anything we can do for the neighbors. That's why we had this meeting, so we're gonna have another meeting. It's a great project for Springfield. I came on a township committee, 25 years ago, we started downtown. People don't realize that, it's been 25 years since we started trying to redevelop downtown. My wife and I dated 50 years ago, and it hasn't changed at all. This is the start of it. I mean, and I'm excited to be here, and I want to be here a few more years to see it develop. And that's why I'm going to vote for it, because I think it's a great thing for this town. As far as the school goes, anytime we get a project, I was the mayor last year, Mayor Chris, everybody on the Township Committee, I called the school the next day. And then it's preliminary, just talk. I said, this is what they're proposing. And I let them know right away. They've had months to go over all of this. Tell us how many kids, and 1.5 kids, or whatever it is. I don't know how they figure it.
It's those half kids that get you, though.
Yeah. But I mean, it's this. This is what's gonna happen. And the school has had plenty of notice. And the mayor met last week, 2 weeks ago, whatever it is with them, and they still agree. They think it's good for the town. As far as affordables, we will make sure that they are for handicap accessible. I think it's the law in New Jersey, isn't it?
Oh, no, this is even to take it a step further to actually have some designated units for
Yeah.
special needs,
I
which
think they have to have those.
which we have talked about, and
Yeah.
that's gonna be, I don't know numbers yet, but that's something that definitely, we're working on.
And as far as the 10-minute walk from there, the owners of the property at one time, they are considering getting their own shuttle from there to the train station for the people. So there isn't that much traffic. There isn't that much, and bad weather, but I mean, so they're thinking of everything they can to help us. And that's why I'm voting for it. I support it.
Mr. Webb, Chris, before you speak, I just wanted to piggyback off what Rich said. Rich has been an intricate player in just working on this. I've been to a lot of meetings. Rich has been to even probably more than me. He's on the planning board. Rich knows construction, knows redevelopment. And if Rich supports this idea, and like he said, he and I have been in contact with the schools for a long time. For anybody who doesn't know my day job, I am an educator for almost 20 years. I'm an advocate for public education. That's how I ended up where I am. That is my first concern, and I wouldn't support something that was going to be a hindrance to the public schools. I have a 6-year-old in the schools. I have an 8th grader in the schools. I care, as a teacher, I know class size matters. I don't know how else to say that when it comes to schools, that you're talking to educators right here who really care about that. Not that parents don't as well, but, so you have my word that that's something that I really am passionate about and that we talk about in these meetings and that I don't let fall by the wayside. So that is something that we are concerned about. Traffic is obviously, there's a lot of concerns, but when it comes to the schools, I fight for that, and that's a concern of mine, and I just want you to know that. Sorry, Mr. Weber.
Nope. Okay, so I hear everything you guys are saying. I'm gonna give you my list real quick. I live on the Morris Ave corridor. I live on South Maple. I also have kids in school. I'm concerned with property taxes. I come off of 24 at 5 o'clock and 4 o'clock, just like everybody else, so I have traffic. Everything that you guys have possibly mentioned hits me directly. But I'll tell you what I do know. I do know that that property sitting vacant for that long can't be anymore. So something has to be done with it. This is just a first step of saying that we can do something with it, which is a milestone and is more that's been done in 20 years. So with that said, I have to vote yes for it. And again, everything you guys have affects me directly. But a vacant building being there for decades, it can't be anymore. That stalls our progress in Springfield more than anything. So that's why I'll be voting yes for it.
And most of the comments that I had, a lot of my colleagues has already expressed. Again, we are all residents up here as well. And everything that you're thinking about, we're thinking about. And I want to thank all the different entities that have worked on this project. It was a long time coming. 12 years ago when I moved into the town. This property was being spoken about. And I'd like to thank everybody's time and commitment and the group collaboration to get this to be a reality. And I especially appreciate and respect both Mr. Schwartz and former Mayor Barnett's comments, and ask that we all think about that as we move forward with the project.
Roll call.
I guess that's it.
Committeeman Kaiser.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Capides.
Yes.
Committeeman Huber.
Yes.
Committeeman Weber.
Yes.
Mayor Dubois.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we have ordinance 2019-07. This ordinance amends the Township Code to create the position of Assistant Chief Financial Officer and to establish a salary for such position.
I would like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 2019-07 as read by Madam Clerk and publicized in the Star Ledger on May 10th, 2019.
I second.
Is there any public comment?
You're running for the door.
This looks like the end of Endgame.
I'm
Everybody's
on
getting
this
out.
side. See ya.
For anyone who may be interested, we just wanted to reiterate that this ordinance is because we will be bringing in a new person for the role of CFO because our fantastic CFO is retiring. But in the interim, while the transition period is going on, we needed to have this title until the new CFO can take over the reins of the CFO position completely. So that's the only reason we're doing this. It's basically legal issue technicality. So just to clarify that, it's not technically, it's not really creating a new position. It's just you can't have two CFOs at the same time. So this is like a transition type of period. That's it.
Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah.
Committeeman Kaiser.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Capides.
Yes.
Committeeman Huber.
Yes.
Committeeman Weber.
Yes.
Mayor Dubois.
Yes.
I go for adjournment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mayor, that's your.
I gotta stay.
5 minutes.